G'day, everyone. Welcome to another Toon Under podcast, the biggest podcast outside of the UK for all things Newcastle United. Tonight, I'm joined by Jack. Jack, how are you, my friend?
Very good, very, very good. I was spending the day obviously happy about the Newcastle result. I watched the Broncos in Vegas, which was interesting.
Yes, I
They
forgot
got
that
beat,
was on.
but yeah, they had like 50,000 fans there.
Oh,
In
did they have
Vegas,
that many there?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they had that
Yeah.
many.
That was pretty fun, but there's no
Nice.
way that these NRL players are getting out of there unscathed. Like there's a couple of them will get arrested, and there'll be some sexual assaults and stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely, no doubt.
Yeah, felonies, as they'll call them in the States. So, yeah, we're going to here to talk about Newcastle, I guess, bouncing back to form a little bit, Jack. A comprehensive 3-0 win over the Ted Lasso Wolverhampton Wandering Wolves at St James's Park in the traditional 3 o'clock kickoff, which was 2 a.m. for me, 1 a.m. for you, which I actually, apart from the 7 o'clock kickoffs for us, they're probably my favourite because I can get a couple of hours in and then a couple of hours after. So it kind of breaks it up a little bit. So I don't know about you, but I don't mind them times.
Yeah, no, that was my strategy. I went to bed about 9, had like 4 hours, back to sleep at 3 for another 3 hours. So really, that's not too bad, you know. Like it could be a lot worse. It's the Sunday night, Monday morning graveyard ones are the worst, where it's like half 2 kickoff.
Yeah.
So you wake up it finishes at 4:30. You obviously can't get back to sleep straight away, and then you've got to go for work. So nah. Yeah, I like the 1 a.m.
Yeah. Any middle of the night on a school night's no good for anyone, I don't think. So, I guess we might start at the end. What impressed you the most about what we seen last night or this morning?
Yeah, it felt a bit like last season, which is one of the biggest kind of positives you can really give it. Like it was a comfortable win. It wasn't always comfortable in the game. We had to work for it. It was a different kind of performance from us from what we've seen recently. I think the clean sheet was obviously a big, massive bonus in this game. But just the way that we did some of those things that we used to do, like the high press was there. We counterattacked really well. We were pretty clinical. There was some nice defending going on. It was just a really well-rounded performance against what was a good team, actually, in a really important game if we want to be pushing towards Europe. So we'll get into it all, I'm sure, but it was just a very pleasing kind of routine victory against what, like I said, a very decent team who've been in good form. They'd beaten Spurs and Chelsea in their last 2 away games, I think. So it was really was a good result, and more importantly, a good performance in a big game.
Yeah. So we were 9th and 10th on the table going into today. So we're very similar, although they were probably in a bit better nick than what we were coming into the game form-wise. We've been pretty putrid for the last probably 6 to 8 weeks. So it was really good. And I think, my biggest takeaway as a collective was definitely the way we defended. I think when you said the press, I think we kind of picked and chose when we did it, and it worked really effective rather than doing that. Now, whether that had something to do with what was on the bench and we knew that we could rotate players and things like that, maybe that played a part of it. I'm sure it did play a part. How much it played, we'll never know. But we haven't seen it for a long time, but then we haven't seen a bench like this for a long time either. So I definitely think there's some kind of correlation there as well. But watching it, I don't know about you, but watching it, it kind of felt like we were doing to Wolves what teams have been doing to us for the last kind of 6 weeks, was soaking up pressure, and then players like Gordon and Murphy and Isak, 3 very quick players as well, and with Willock returning into the starting lineup, we counted, and we counted with pace, and we were direct, and even Bruno found some legs a couple of occasions that I didn't think he had, except for that header. I think it was a couple of seasons ago, that last-minute header as well. I haven't seen him run that fast since then. Yeah, so that was probably the best bit I took about it, was we kind of adapted our game a little bit, and we weren't just doing the same thing and expecting something different to happen.
Yeah, it was smart, I think, from Eddie Howe to you'll have obviously watched what Wolves have been doing, and like I said, they've been in good form. They had a big threat on their right, at least for the first half, Neto, who's been brilliant this season. They didn't really have a striker though. 2 of their strikers are out. Huang, who seems to score 10 goals every time he plays against us.
He lives every time he plays against us.
So that was good. But yeah, like what you just said there about doing what teams have done to us, I didn't really think about it like that. But I think that's right. Like they did have a lot of the ball. They didn't create much in the first half. I think they'd had 5 shots off target in the first half. They weren't really a threat. And we were very clinical on the break, which was good to see because we haven't done that for a long time. We haven't had that pace. We haven't had that creativity going forward, really. Even though we've been scoring quite a lot of goals still, this felt more controlled. It was less random and chaotic than, for example, the Luton or the Bournemouth games. And obviously, we've got our noses in front. And this time we stayed there, unlike against Forest in one of the home games where we got in front and just collapsed after that. So just overall a very pleasing performance, and we'll probably get onto like what you said about the bench. I think is right as well. Like you've got Isak and Willock who are probably only going to play 65-70 minutes anyway, but they know they can go pretty much at full tilt, and we'll be bringing someone on behind them who can do what they've been doing. Who can go and do that same job. So it makes a massive difference, and it just shows like what we have been missing, when you've actually got a bench, what a big difference it makes.
Yeah, so we'll chuck the lineup up. I've just got our starting lineup. I don't really care too much about Wolves' starting lineup because I'm sure 95% of the people wouldn't know their full 11 from week to week anyway. So I think let's start on the bench. So Karius return, Lascelles, Barnes, Kraft, Hall, Livramento, Almiron, Anderson, and Miley. Like that's probably as good as we've had since the end of October, probably after it might have been before the first PSG game where we started to get a bit crippled and things like that. But the 11 was Dubravka, Trippier, Shah, and Botman returned from a spell midweek. Byrne back to left back, which I'm sure raised a few eyebrows when the lineups were released. Like you said, against Neto, there was some definitely question marks and stuff like that. Bruno, Longstaff, and Willock in the midfield, and Murphy, Gordon, and Isak as a front 3. Now, I think there's been a lot of question marks about Sean Longstaff in these last kind of few games, but I think the difference between him and Miley at the moment is that Longstaff offers a little bit more defensive cover, and I think Bruno's definitely been playing a bit more ahead of the ball, a bit more closer to goal in the last few weeks as well. Willock, we know, is really a strong runner and likes to get forward as well. So I think as much as we've all been critical of Longstaff and things like that, I think he's probably needed at the moment as that sort of defensive balance in that midfield 3. And it definitely played a bit deeper as well, which kind of helped compact the field. And probably, I think we'll get to Dubravka a bit later on, but I think he nearly benefited the most with having his defenders a little bit more closer to him.
Yeah, with Longstaff, it was another game where you didn't really notice him. And that's not always a bad thing with Longstaff because he's doing a lot of unheralded work. But when he gets the ball, he's not on it at the moment. He's just not in form. Like there was an occasion where he fell over and didn't get a free kick as well. That seems to be what he likes to do as well. So I love Sean Longstaff. What he brings is his character, his influence on the culture of the team is really good in the squad. But he's not been in good form. But at the same time, you probably do pick him ahead of Miley. Miley needs a break anyway. He's played 25 games now this season, which is absolutely
and he's played nearly 90 minutes in all of them as well.
So he's needed a break. So I think it's good that he's had a rest the last 2 games. Longstaff's got good energy. We know he's got a good engine, so he's still got that even if he's not in great form. So, and he does provide that bit of that's probably more defensive. Miley is being caught out a little bit sometimes on that side with Dan Burn as well. So yeah, I wasn't really surprised at that. I wasn't surprised at all that Dan Burn started as well because Eddie likes him and he trusts him. And I think we've kind of got through the stage where people kick off about Dan Burn playing because people just expect that he will now.
Yeah, it's not a shock.
All Tino can do is play as well as he is when he comes on, and we'll talk about his goal later. But Tino's not a left back as well. He's not actually a left back. He's right-footed. So he's got less experience playing at left back than Dan Burn as well. So, and Burn's been all right the last few games. So yeah,
yes. So I even thought he was all right against Arsenal. Like Saka's obviously one of the best wingers going around at the moment. I thought he contained him pretty well. I think we're all terrified of what was going to happen, but I know he scored, and it was a bit of a weird goal, and we spoke about it last week. It was kind of in slow motion. I think that it was like the slow ball in cricket that kind of just deceived everyone and ended up in the net. But yeah, the start of the game, it definitely was a noticeable change from the way you've been playing, like you mentioned earlier. It wasn't chaotic and like basketball where it was just bouncing from end to end and everyone was strap yourself in, who knows where this is going to go. But we did open the scoring in the 14th minute. Fabian Schär, we'll touch on him later on. He was instrumental in all 3 goals, but the interception was pretty, I guess, standard. Like it wasn't great and everything like that. The key was the early ball out and got us sort of going forward, which caught everyone off guard. And then, Gordon comes charging down the pitch with Bruno and his shot's blocked and it kind of spins into Isak's path who nods at home. Now, I'm a self-confessed crush on Alexander Isak, so let's just get that out of the way first. And that finish was a lot harder than what it looked. It looked like a pretty easy finish, but with the ball and the way it was spinning, and it could have gone anywhere. Like there was no real pace on it where you just had to direct it and go back in. But I don't think people appreciate how hard that is and how easy he makes it look.
Well, that's what he does, isn't it? Like he's just a brilliant player. 15 goals now for him. Like it's been stop-start again for him, but he said actually himself after the game as well, he's still getting his fitness back. It takes a while to get your match fitness. It was, like you said, Bruno's lung-busting run, which he can do. He's not the quickest, but he was miles away from the action when the ball broke out. He must have been on the edge of our box when Schär passed it out. And that kind of goal, you've still got a lot of time when Gordon gets the ball, like, or pretty much in his own half, even though we've got a good attack on. A lot can go wrong. Like they could overthink it. He could take it and shoot himself. He'd get blocked. He could have tried to pass to Isak. You know, you had to be smart what he did. And then Bruno got the reward. He got his kind of a lucky deflection, but the shot was going on target anyway. And like I said, Isak was there. I think if he'd have missed it, it would have been classed as a bad miss, but it was still a good finish to get his head on that, direct it into the back of the net. And it was 1-0, and it was very good time to score a goal. And
it was. I think it just settled the nerves. I think everyone was a little bit cagey still with our form, what could happen and things like that. And I think just to get that early goal without playing in a chaotic way just kind of settled everyone down, and we kind of had that cushion now where we could sort of get to work a little bit. And I think the longer, the more the game went on, we kind of grew more into how we were playing with that little tweak and felt a bit more confident. I'm sure there would have been maybe a few nerves early on with the new kind of system and not playing that front foot aggressive stuff, especially at home. But I think it was more of once they seen the rope-a-dope work once, I thought, and knowing that Wolves were going to have to keep coming at them now to try and get a goal, I think that kind of grew in confidence that this is going to work and we're on the right track here. And it wasn't long. I think it was 32, 33 minutes. Gordon scores the second goal. Another quick ball out. Schär plays it forward. Murphy. And it was a glorious day on Tyneside. Let's not mention the weather. He just puts it right in the corridor of uncertainty, doesn't he? But the keeper and the defender, I think it was Kilman, just sort of smashed into each other, and Gordon's the first one to react and smash it home, and 2-0 up after 33 minutes, and things are looking good.
Yeah, and like I said, it all started again with Schär at the back, who played out a lovely pass. I think it went to Isak first, and then he laid it out to Murphy. First time cross, which was really good. I was thinking at the time, just put this in. You know, like I was worried he was going to take a touch and lose the opportunity.
Yeah,
bit of fortune maybe, but like I said, the weather, it was like sideways sleet at that point. I think so. It was, it wasn't good. So it was probably a
You know it's
smart move.
bad. You know when people put their head down, that's when you know it's real bad. Look, the rain's really it actually hurts your face.
Yeah, it did not look nice. So it was smart from Murphy to put it in there into that position.
Yeah,
A bit unlucky for the keeper, but it was a good poacher's goal. Gordon's played up front quite a bit this season. He's scored 10 goals now this season, which is more than he
which
ever
is a
did for
great
Everton.
return. Yeah, I was going to say
Yeah,
whoever. I think
he's
even the most positive Newcastle fan wouldn't have imagined that he'd be scoring 10 goals a season for us. And it's not. It doesn't feel like a flash in the pan. It actually the way he's playing and things like that. Like it actually feels
yeah.
sustainable, unlike kind of Almiron last year.
Yeah, he's got 9 league goals this season now, so that's only 3 less than Saint Maximin got in his whole Newcastle career in the Premier League. So
There's still people
actually,
defending him.
you said that about Newcastle. No Newcastle fan would have thought that. If you go back to the preview pod that we did, I said that Gordon would get double figures goals and assists this season in all competitions. So he's only got 5 assists officially because you don't get assists for penalties, for winning penalties. If you had, he would be almost up at 10 already. But he's just been brilliant. Like, and he's played so much football as well since the summer because he played in the Euros. He needed it, I think, to get his touch in and he needed that time last season to get used to what Eddie Howe needed from him. And he's just absolutely flown this season. And he's done it in 2 different positions. He's had to go up front sometimes. Like recently, a lot he's been having to go up front because we've only
I
had
was going
one
to say
striker.
like today.
It's so impressive what he's done. Like, and he scored all different kinds of goals. That was a typical. That was like a Callum Wilson type poacher goal he scored today.
Yeah,
He scored a
right
couple
place, right time, and
beautiful goals. Like against the one against Man City, really stands out. So he's just full of
the one at
confidence.
Sheffield was pretty good too, from
Yeah,
memory.
full of confidence, full of ability, full of just he's positive. You know, he's just been a brilliant signing, an absolute snip at 40 million. And if he doesn't get called up for England soon, he was 23 last week, I think. England on the left-hand side are not blessed with great options at the moment. You've got Rashford, who's been having a bad season and a bad time. Grealish as well, he's injured. Sterling doesn't seem to be in the picture. So I think Gordon's probably the most in form left-sided attacker English at the moment. So
Yeah,
hopefully for him, he
look,
gets.
yeah.
It'd be good if he got a break over the summer, but hopefully for him, he
Yeah,
wants to play for England, so he deserves it, I think.
yeah. I'm not as obviously involved or intrigued into England as what you or other people and some of our viewers and listeners might be, but on the surface, I can't understand why you would pick Marcus Rashford ahead of Anthony Gordon at the moment. It is they couldn't be more different players right now, and even for the whole season, I think he hasn't been good for the whole year, Rashford, and you can't. Anyone in a sane state of mind can't pick someone based on their form for 12 months ago. Like, you actually have to reward good form and everything like that. And you've got a guy who absolutely works his socks off. His work rate again today was absolutely unbelievable. And he's scoring and things like that. He can draw fouls. He can help you get up the pitch when you're under the pump and release the valve and things like that. I just can't. And it'll happen. No doubt that Rashford will get picked and start most games before Anthony Gordon will. But to me, as an outsider, with no care in the world how England go in any major competition, it baffles me how he won't get picked on this tour or this tournament. Or if he does get picked, he'll barely play, and he'll have Rashford and that ahead of him. And even the last international break when Cole Palmer was picked before him
Yeah,
as well. Like it was baffling,
yeah.
and like no wonder you never win because shit like this happens all the time, and you don't actually reward blokes who were playing well, and you just keep picking the same guys and expect something different to happen.
And I think part of the problem this time is there's only one international break, I think, which is coming up quite soon.
Something in a couple of weeks, I think. Yeah,
Before the Euros, there's only one break, so there's only one squad before the Euro squad to get in. But Southgate's not traditionally been a very adventurous manager. It's fair to say he sticks with
no,
who and what he knows. So yeah, like I don't know what more Gordon could have done this season. He's played, like I said, he's played almost every game. He was brilliant in the Euros, and he got the under-21 Euros. He got player of the tournament there.
Player of the tournament.
Yeah. England usually like players who they've had in the youth setup as well. They like bringing them. There's definitely no question marks over his attitude now, which there was previously as well, or which Everton fans would have had us believe was a big problem. We haven't seen any of that, so
no,
he's just brilliant. Like, but as long as it's our game, like he could do with a break. He's played so much football. If he does have a break over the summer, get 3 months off. Let's just watch him get even better next season. It's only got to be a good thing for us.
Yeah, he's in a win-win, isn't he? He gets to represent England in a major tournament, or he's going to get 3 months off and come back and absolutely ripping Nick. So the second half, I think we soaked up the pressure pretty well. There was a few, I guess, half chances from Wolves. Dubravka made some very important saves, especially kind of in that sort of second half of the second half. He's had a great week, hasn't he? He was crook a week ago, and he's pulled us out of the shit in the FA Cup and probably kept a clean sheet and helped us get 3 points today.
Yeah, like he's had an absolutely brilliant week, and he deserves it. He's been at the club for a long time. I know that him going to Man U on loan left a sour taste in some people's mouth. I don't care about that. I think fine. He was upset that he wasn't number one anymore when he hadn't really done anything wrong. So and he went to one of the biggest clubs in the world. So been over that before. He's come back. I wasn't too worried about him being deputizing for Nick Pope, but then he didn't have a great time. He's not Nick Pope, so he's got a different style. He doesn't come off his line as much, which causes a problem. But shot stopping, like I think Dimmy was saying on the last pod, that's never been an issue with him. He's always been a good shot stopper. Like you said, in this second half, there was 3 efforts they had on target within the space of 5 to 10 minutes. And a couple of them were good saves, really good saves. So it wasn't just that. He was commanding his box really well. I think the defense had confidence in him. It was just a really good, you can tell that he'd had a good game in midweek. He was full of confidence, and he put in a really good, strong, commanding performance today. And it was really, a really important part of his getting the clean sheet. So good on him. Like he's had a hard time. He's conceded a lot of goals since Christmas, but he's come in and he was probably one of our best players in this game today. And in that really important period where we really needed him, he stepped up, and it's all he can do. Really good for him.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this with Mark last week, that it was kind of on Eddie to change the way we played. The keeper's such an important player in his system and things like that, and how he wants to play. We're obviously not going to drop him. He's going to play until he's either not fit or Nick Pope's back. So I mentioned that it might be time to maybe change the way we played to suit the keeper we have at the time, and that's what he did. Everyone kind of dropped a little bit deeper, and it was really, really effective. So I'm glad. Obviously, we know that Eddie is a big fan of the show and things like that. I don't think he watches. I think he listens to the audio, the podcast on the way into work. So it was good.
He doesn't have time to watch YouTube, does he, Eddie?
No, that's it. No, in between getting home at 6 o'clock, putting the kids to bed, and playing his piano, I don't think he's got much time for YouTube at all. I guess the only sour part of the second half was Trippier's injury. It's been a calf injury. What the severity is at the time of recording, we don't know, but it's obviously bad enough that he couldn't continue in the game and things like that. I guess the silver lining is that we have got a more than capable right back, a legitimate right back to fill his spot. We've actually probably got 2 legitimate right backs. I think Emil Kraft's a very good right back as well. In his position, he's obviously a little bit more limited than what Livramento is, but we got a bit of a taste of what that might look like with the injury time. I don't know if it was the sealer, but the injury time goal. Now, I've been tossing and turning on this all day, Jack. Does he run from his own half, or does a run only count when he picks the ball up, which was in our attacking half? Now, I'd love to say he's run from our defensive half, but he didn't actually get the ball. But I'm not sure. I don't know. Did he run from our half?
He did run, factually, he did run from his own half.
Yes.
But you can't really say that he ran. I know what you mean. Like you can't claim that he's kind of ran with the ball from his own half, because it makes it sound like some kind of like Maradona kind of
Ben Arthur kind of thing again.
Yeah, exactly. Ben Arthur against Bolton, that was running from his own half and scoring. But Tino is just a really good footballer. Like once he gets running, he did one against Arsenal as well. It's really hard.
He did one against Man United in the cup.
Yeah, and he set Miggy's goal up. It's really hard for the opposition to get the ball off him, which is quite unusual, I guess, in a fullback to be that good at dribbling, running forward, carrying the ball forward. It's really threatening. You can see that defenses don't really know what to do about it, and he doesn't necessarily look like he's going to be able to do that. Like he's quite tall.
He looks a bit unco too. You know what I mean? Like, and he's not tricky. There's not step over. It's just like a slalom. Like he's just sort of going in and out, and it's strange to watch, but it's really, really effective.
It is, and it's very direct. He kind of scuffed the ball in. I don't know if it was known goal. Like I think he was a bit hurt when he scored because he didn't seem.
No, I reckon
he was rubbing his neck. So
unless he definitely meant it. The Wolves. I can't remember who it was, but the Wolves defender. There was a bit of a bounced around a little bit, but he actually bent over and got his kind of foot behind the ball and slid it into the goal. So he 100% meant to score. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But he wasn't, for a bloke who's just scored his first goal at St James's Park in the Premier League. He wasn't, mate. I'd be the top of the leases, I reckon, if I scored my first goal.
I don't know whether he was a bit sort of, whether it was kind of like
he was fingered probably.
He was exhausted because he'd ran so far. But the thing with Trippier as well, but Trippier has been so integral to the way that we've attacked and defended. He's just been probably the most important player, along with Bruno, since he signed, in terms of the system that we play. So him going off is a problem in more ways than one. Just losing a good defender, his leadership, everything that he brings as well. But him being in the team has also kind of restricted the system to an extent as well, because he is used in that system to go forward so much. So, and he's not going to get dropped because he's so important. He's such a senior player. We've just got such a good backup for him. So you could tell it was a bit innocuous, his injury, but he knew straight away.
That's what the concerning part was for me, that there didn't look much in it, but he knew straight away that something.
Unless he was just cold and he fancied a bit of a break as well. But
Rain was hurting his head too.
It was sideways sleeting, so but he was in the photo at the end, looking all right. So hopefully it's not a long one. But if it is, you can't think of a better replacement for him. And it will be interesting to see how the system evolves or changes if we've got Livramento playing at right back instead of Trippier. Like, is it going to change the kind of style of play? Like, is this counter-attacking kind of style more like what we're going to see till the end of the season? And if it is, and if it gets results, then that's great. It shows that we've got another way that we can play football, and we're not going to try and rely on something that hasn't been working that well. So, but having said that hasn't been working, we've still only lost to Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal this year, and we're in March. So I know we've had a few annoying draws in home games, which has been frustrating, but the form has not been as bad as as it has been made out to be sometimes, I think, even though it has been a bit chaotic and frustrating.
It's going to be interesting too, because they're very different players, aren't they? He loves to run with the ball at his feet and things like that. Trippier's more of your sort of in and around the box, playing passes, first touches and things like that. They're pretty different in the way they play. So it's going to be really interesting to see, like you said, the different setups and the different ways we're going to play and things like that. Just something as well I think is worth mentioning. So Livramento, he was our 20th goal scorer this season. So only Kraft, Target, Dummett and Anderson are the only outfield players who haven't scored for us. So that's good in a way. And I mean, I would have imagined Anderson would have scored a goal if he was fit, and the other two are fullbacks and injured most of the time. So so it's a pretty good achievement and shows that we are kind of sharing the love when it comes to goals. Now, whether that's a deliberate act or we didn't have a choice because 90% of them have been injured anyway, so other blokes have kind of had to score. But it's good to see that a lot of players are offering threats at different times.
Yeah, like it's that's what teams want. You want more than one or two main goal threats. Newcastle didn't have this for years and years and years, where our top scorer was getting like 6 goals, and then defenders were chipping in with 2 or 3 each. But the spread has been really good. There was the commentator said at one point, I think we'd scored more goals at this point of the season in the league than we had since the 60s. So, like I said, I was just saying before, even though it's been a really bruising season at times, it's felt really difficult. It's been a real slog. We've had all the injuries, everything, all of that stuff. We've still been scoring goals for fun. I've got a lot of people scoring goals. We've just gone and knocked in another 3 today. Our goal difference is good compared to the other teams around us, so it's not all bad. Like it's you could be forgiven for thinking we're in some kind of relegation fight the way things have been, and the reaction to defeats or to frustrating results. And I think there was always an element that this season was going to be a come down after not just last season, but the season before that as well, where we had to take over and we had such a good run of form towards the end. There was always going to be a time where it was going to be harder. And we all said this before the season, and the club said it, and Eddie Howe said it, and it's just, it's been
no one's accepted it.
It's been difficult, and it is hard to accept it when you're seeing kind of maybe the same issues cropping up time and time again. But take a step back, look at the big picture. It's really not that bad. Actually, it's good for what we're doing. Two domestic cup quarterfinals, like a good showing in Europe, and in chance with a top 6, top 7 in the league. It could be a lot worse.
Well, I'm just banging my head against a brick wall for stuff like this, because the challenges and things like that, they're kind of self-inflicted. Like there's no way in hell we'd be where we'd be if we had half the injuries that we've had. Like that's fact. Like the ability, like we've seen today, the ability to substitute players and actually bring on capable replacements actually keeps us in the game, because we can keep doing what we're doing. We're not fatigued. We're not making like bad decisions because we're fatigued and things like that. Like it's for me that this is fairly and squarely why we are where we are in the season that we've had, is because of the injuries. And there was a graphic that popped up on Twitter maybe Friday night or over the weekend or something like that, and the injuries and the days lost through injuries. So we've had 29 injuries, classified injuries, and this is not including Tonali's suspension. These are just injuries, and the days lost has been 1,333 days lost through injuries. The next best or next worst, depending on which way you want to go, is Brentford, and they've had 1,159 days lost through injuries. So, like, we're nearly 200 days more lost through injuries. Like, you can have the best squad in the world, but fatigue is real, and the ability to not rotate players is real. And that's, for me, and I'll say this every time I come on here, that's the reason why we are what we are at the moment. But our subs, I don't think they changed the game, but they helped keep the game on our terms.
Yeah, and when you've got Miggy and Barnes coming on, and Miley as well now, and he's kind of an established player now. Like
and Livramento come on as well.
Yeah, like that's you're bringing sort of almost £100 million worth of players off the bench. So, and it makes a huge difference. Sometimes the most, like you just said, the most simple explanation for something is the obvious. You don't need to. Everything gets analyzed to the nth degree because of people like us do podcasts and Twitter, and everyone's has to have an instant take and a reaction to things. But like what you just said is so spot on about the injuries is what's derailed the season, and that's really what all there is to it. It's been a real struggle to be missing players like Willock. Willock's barely played. Isak's been in and out. These are 2 top class players who would be playing every week. Even now, still we've got Joe Linton missing. Like if you listen to the national media at the moment, they'll have you believe that Liverpool have invented injuries. I think recently, so they have. They
invented fist pumps as well after a game. Apparently,
and injury crisis. They've had a big old season, but they've got 12 injuries at the moment. I was just
for the record,
we've had 12 injuries for 3 months.
they've had 2 less injuries than us classified for the season. They've had 27, we'd had 29. Now, remember, our days lost was 1,333. They've had 865. So
Yeah.
hardly, groundbreaking or bloody
Yeah.
season ruining days lost or injuries. Like, give it a rest.
I understand it's Liverpool, so it's there's a lot of noise around them, but yeah, like and they've got a higher profile than us, and I think our injuries have been kind of widely reported, but it definitely got to a stage where people were just fatigued, and like the players were fatigued, and everyone was fatigued about hearing about injuries, but that doesn't make it any less true that that's what's caused such a problem at times this season. And it's the physical fatigue, the mental fatigue, the not being able to make subs. Like, it's all just fed into it. And we still have made 2 cup quarterfinals, not far from going through in Europe. And then we're sitting in 8th in the league with a pretty good fixtures coming up. So in with a shot at top 6, I think. And when all's said and done, it's going to be viewed as a difficult, I think a challenging season where there's been problems, but a very important season in terms of the club learning, a steep learning curve for Eddie Howe. Let's just see what happens from that. But we've still got 1 cup tie, which let's just not even think about that, because
No, we don't.
It's terrible. And we've got 11 league games as well. So yeah, still a lot to
still plenty to play for.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to touch on something post game. Like we spoke about it earlier. I think this performance in this game was more like us and the Newcastle that we've kind of not fallen in love with. We've always loved them, but we've sort of come to know over the last kind of couple of seasons and things like that as well. And I thought we were really hard to play against, which we haven't been at times, especially this year. And I mean, in 2024, but we're back to rattling opposition managers too, Jack. I'm not sure if you come across this after the game, but I'll just read you a quote from Gary O'Neill from his press conference. He said, "There's no way Newcastle let us have the ball. I know Newcastle. I know Eddie Howe. The reason we had the ball was because of how good we were on the ball. I thought our structure was better than theirs, and we caused more problems than theirs did ours." Funny that Eddie come after the game, and Eddie had also said that no, it was a deliberate play, deliberate tactic that we did do, and he said we wanted to play more of a transition game and things like that. Like, Gary can spin it any way he likes, but he got as some of the cool kids like to say, Jay.
Yeah, sometimes managers say things straight after games where it's like, maybe if you'd had an extra hour to reflect, you wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
you can't really come after you've been beaten 3-0. And let's not forget Willock's chance as well, which was a goal.
Yeah.
Clearance.
What a great half. That was an unbelievable clearance. That.
So you can't really say that the structure was better, and like I don't think so. Like, they didn't cause us any problems whatsoever in the first half. They did have that spell in the second half, but that's kind of to be expected in Premier League games. Like, there's always an ebb
and you've got a 2-goal lead as well, and
and
things like that.
I don't know why he really said that. Like, the Wolves have been good this season. They're a decent team. They've got some good players, but I think today I think Eddie tactically outsmarted him, actually, and I didn't actually know that Howard said that as well, about that being a deliberate plan. That's actually really encouraging, because it shows that he's looked at Wolves, which he knew he does anyway. He's diligent in his preparation, but
the old rope-a-dope.
And it just sort of, that's 2 fingers at people who said we've only got one way of playing, which is not, it's never been true anyway. But
no, that always makes me laugh.
To get a result like this from a different style of play is really, really good. So I think, Gary might have a different opinion when he watches it back a bit and sees the game in full.
Yeah, that always makes me laugh. Oh, he's got no plan. Plan B is to make plan A work better. I'm sure that these blokes who are at the club up to 12 hours a day during the week and formulate they code every session and go through it and things like that. And all they've got is just, we're going to play this way. And I don't care who we're playing or who we got out, we're playing this way. It always makes me laugh, the Nuffies and things like that. So we'll finish off, Jack. I'll ask you something. It could be the hardest question we talk about tonight. Who's your 3-2-1 for your man of the match?
Right. I always get confused. It's three. Like
three's the best.
Like, three's the best, right?
No,
Okay,
no,
so
three's the
1, 2,
best.
3.
3 votes.
Yeah,
So we're going to go in a Brownlow medal format.
All right. Okay. So
Most votes wins. We should actually do this proper at the end of the year, and maybe not now, but the next season, and actually keep a running tally of who we are. I think I named it the Craigmore medal because I think, or the Mark Viduka medal, the 2 Australians who have played for Newcastle, so we can have that connection there. But so you can start with the 1 if you like. You 1 vote.
This is quite hard. There was a lot of players.
Very hard. Yes,
played really well. So I'm gonna go with. I think I'll go with Dubravka 1. I thought he would be. Thinking before, I thought he'd be the man of the match, but I don't think he was. He did what he needed to do really well. It was good to see him keep a clean sheet. So he's going to get 1. 2, I'm going to give to Bruno. Bruno was just brilliant again, like he is pretty much every game at the moment. He's playing a really disciplined, controlled game, avoiding getting booked. He's doing really well, pushing further forward. Like I said, he played a big part in the first goal with that lung busting run. But 3 was Fabian Schär. I think we've talked about his role in all 3 goals. The pass for Livramento was fantastic. We didn't really touch on that in depth.
Yes.
To have that composure when you're in your own box, when you've just been under pressure.
Ping.
So he did that. He did that for all 3 goals, and he was definitely back to his best. He had a hard game at Arsenal. Botman was good as well today. In fact, everyone was pretty good. But
that's why I thought it was very
Bruno,
hard.
Schär, and that's without even Anthony Gordon, who was excellent again as well.
Yeah. So I reckon if you ask 20 people this, you could get 20 different versions of a 3-2-1. So I gave 1 to Gordon. I thought he was unreal, and his work rate, like I mentioned earlier, was superb. I gave Schär 2, especially like you said. They're kind of like the assists. I think you might have mentioned them one of the pods as well. And I gave Bruno 3. I thought he was unreal. Controlled the game. That no look pass as well to Miggy. That Miggy last year would have gobbled it up, but Miggy this year didn't look like scoring. That was unbelievable. I'm sure if you go on his Twitter, he likes to. I don't know if he does it or someone does it for him, and he reposts it like a little highlights clip of his game, which happens regardless of the result. He likes to just put his own highlights out there, which is fun to see. So yeah, he gets my 3. I'll quickly just touch on the stats as well before we go. So there's just one thing here I wanted to talk about. So we're on the left-hand side here for those who are watching. We had 19 tackles to 8. Jack, now we spoke last week after the Arsenal game about our ability to not tackle and not get stuck in, and whether Longstaff was scared, Miley's too light, Bruno's scared because he's on 1 more yellow card and things like that. But if you look at sort of the tackle count of 19, I think we had 8 against Arsenal. Yeah. So that's a massive increase with similar possession as well. So I think the boys really got stuck in, which was great to see. And I just wanted to mention that before we finish, because I think it's very important that I know maybe the conditions played a part in a game being more tackling and things like that, but I think our attitude and our mindset was probably more of a factor than what the weather was. So I just thought it was important to bring that up before we signed off.
I think as well, Arsenal was a really bad performance, especially the first half. But Arsenal are in absolutely brilliant form, and they might go on and win the league. So, like, you have to. I know we were bad, but they were brilliant as well. And when Arsenal are in this kind of form, they're going to probably beat most teams. You know, they've got Man City coming up, and I think it's going to be hard for Man City that game. So you kind of just put that one to bed and try not to think about it anymore. But since then, you know, we said we need to try and qualify for the next round of the Cup, and then we need to try and win this game. And this can really kickstart our season, I think, because we've got 11 league games to go. That's what, 33 points to play for.
Yeah,
I
and
think,
probably one midweek game left
yeah, and we've got
with the Crystal
home.
Palace one.
We've got home games as well against West Ham and Brighton, and we'll play Spurs at home. So these are all clubs that are around us. We've still got Man United away as well. So I think we're in a good position. And if we can get a bit of confidence back, if we can keep people like Willock and Isak and Bruno, keep them fit for the rest of the season. Eddie's teams generally finish well. Like both of his seasons with us, we've finished well. So maybe the conditioning is gonna come into play then. But really important week, really positive. And I think we've got a 9-day break now until we play Chelsea as well.
Chelsea,
So that's
yeah.
good.
So
Bit of a break there.
yeah, so that'll do. We won't have a 9-day break though. We'll be back during the week for a preview of Chelsea. So stick around, or don't stick around because you'll probably be waiting a few days. Just check back in a few days' time and look for that. Jack, thanks very much for joining us, mate. It's been a pleasure. It's always great to talk about a win, much better than talking about losses and other negative things. And we're pretty positive people, so it's good to have you on, mate.
Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
See you later.
See ya.